Hey guys, going live. um, for those that don't know me, I'm Bethany Noble. I'm a Reiki master and teacher. I'm also a transformational coach, and I work with people who have trauma in their background and are going through spiritual changes. I myself have trauma in my background and have gone through a spiritual transition, and a lot of times people are drawn to me for those reasons. So I'm going to give just a few moments for some folks to come online as well. Coming to you today from my wellness center where I see people face to face. Again, I am a Reiki master and teacher. Sorry, I have a slow connection. It was just saying. So I'm a Reiki master and teacher, and so I do Reiki as a service also. And so I do see people in my wellness center in central Missouri where I'm located in Jefferson City. But then I do also distance Reiki as well. So I have clients that I see and do distance Reiki with. And then I also do coaching services as a transformational coach, and I see clients face-to-face doing transformational services, and then also I see clients virtually as well. So again, my name is Bethany Noble, and I'm a Reiki master and teacher, transformational coach, and I see a couple folks maybe coming online, so we'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to talk with folks today from my wellness center and just kind of give people an idea of what I do when it comes to the Reiki side of my business and how it kind of leans into the transformational coaching side of my business a bit. I haven't, I think, done a very good job of sharing this side of my life very publicly. So this is what I'm trying to do, is kind of get this knowledge out to help people understand what I do and how I do it. And I think interestingly, like once people understand it, then they're, I think a lot more open-minded, and they kind of wrap their mind around it a little bit. So what I wanted to do today is kind of talk about what I do, and then also give some of the frequently asked questions that I receive when it comes to Reiki, and then like the way that I work. So I'm going to do that, and then if you have questions also as we're going through this, drop them in the comments section, and I'll try to answer those as we go along. So if you're catching this live, if you can drop a hashtag live in the comments section, I'd appreciate that. If you catch this afterwards, if you can drop a hashtag replay, that would help me also. I would appreciate that. So again, if you're just joining, what we're talking about is I just wanted to share kind of, what I do, how I do it, and really kind of what sets me apart in the way that I do my work, and the way that I deliver Reiki, and how it kind of leans into the coaching side of my practice. So when you schedule a Reiki service with me, I do a review of the service and an intake review of that appointment. And not everyone that schedules necessarily gets on the books. So, as far as getting access to service, I do have access to service on the schedule, but not necessarily everyone is a right fit for me. So, I do a review of who is scheduling with me to make sure that we're going to be a right fit. And when you come in, we do an intake process to understand why you're coming in, so that I understand, why it is you're here to see me. That's really important to our relationship and the development of our relationship, because for me, I am not expecting to see you in kind of a one and done setting. And I'm also not expecting to see you like 2 or 3 times a year and just be done with that relationship. Typically the reason that people are coming to see me is much more intuitive in nature and much more spiritual in nature. So they're going to be seeing me a little more frequent than 2 or 3 times a year. So we sit down and we kind of talk about what the reasoning is for someone coming in to see me. And then that helps me to ultimately individualize and tailor not only this session, but ongoing, put together really a care plan for each person. So each person gets a tailored and individualized care plan. I'll talk about that a little bit as we go through. But even before someone gets to me, typically what happens is I'll get what I call a drop-in, because I'm not only a Reiki master, I'm also an intuitive guide. So that means that I work off of my intuition, but I also receive messages, intuitive messages from my spirit guide team. And I'll often receive messages from my clients' spirit guide teams as well. So often what happens, and also, guys, I'll mention to you, for those of you who are kind of curious about what that means, because I know that jargon and that language might be a little like woo-wooey and curious for some of you. If you're interested in what that means, schedule a session with me and come in and talk to me about it. And that's kind of the spiritual side of the coaching that I do, is helping people understand and arrive at that understanding of what all that is that I'm talking about. So people will come in and I will typically get kind of a drop-in of kind of what it is that they are going through, or some connection of some sort of what their guides want me to know. And in that, it will help us with the direction of the session, or that has some meaning involved with the session. So it makes the experience extremely unique and authentic to that individual, and typically sets the tone, I think, for a lot of what the relationship is developed as. So so then we kind of go through the Reiki session, and Reiki as the actual session itself is pretty straightforward, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the frequently asked questions part of this when I get to that. But we do the Reiki session, and then after the session, I give an opportunity for my clients to ask questions, volunteer anything that they may have experienced, and then I volunteer and communicate what I experienced, and also what I picked up, and what I learned during, when I say learned, what I took away from working with them at that time. And what I do is then incorporate that into the care plan that I have put together and am putting together for them at that point in time. And when I talk about a care plan, it's very also unique to this modality. And so we talk about what it is that you can do to continue to self-heal. And that's really what Reiki is using energy to self-heal. So we go through kind of what it is that I think makes sense to help you go through that process. And we talk about how often should you be really entertaining coming in for Reiki? What else can you do to self-heal? We talk about next steps, and a big part of the conversation is how often should you be doing this. And oftentimes for my clients who are just getting started, my recommendation is for them to come in within the next 2 weeks to a month. So usually 2 weeks to 3 weeks is whenever I have them coming in for their next session. And then we do like another check-in usually within the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. And we continue a check-in based off of that. But really, because it's individualized and tailored to each person, it depends on what their current status is, what their current progress is, how are they self-healing, what do they have going on at home, what do they have going on at work, what's their stress management level. Some people, I see them once a month. Right off the bat, I only see them once a month. A major part of my practice is being able to see people and being able to see my clients on a regular basis. So, as I mentioned in the very beginning, and real quick, I want to mention, if you're catching this live, if you don't mind to drop a hashtag live, and if you're catching the replay, hashtag replay, that just helps me, just kind of keep things flowing. I really appreciate it. So as I mentioned in the beginning, and just for those of you dialing in, catching me now, what I'm talking about is how I deliver my Reiki services and how it kind of leans into the coaching side of my business, and kind of what sets me apart from, I think, some just kind of what sets me apart, I think, in the fact that I lean into that more trauma-informed Reiki, and people with that kind of background tend to be drawn more to me. So I think what's really important is that, as I work with people and I make recommendations around their care planning, that they're able to continue to come back in on that regular schedule. And, as I said in the beginning, I don't just, let people come in on, a open gate basis. I do a review of people who are trying to schedule with me, and review each person individually, and then work with them to understand and make sure that each person is the right fit. And then that helps me to kind of manage the schedule and make sure that the clients that I have established are then going to also routinely be able to get in. And it helps me manage that schedule that way for them also, because I want to make sure that there is always space for all of my clients that are with me, that are going to need that space every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or every month, because coming in every 3 months or every 4 months or every 6 months. I think that's okay if you're operating on a basis of regularity and you have, a vibration that is at a space that you need to be cleansed at that vibration. But whenever you have, I think, a stress management level that is maybe, ultra, let me maybe break it down to my own personal experience level. And, I can remember like being in these places where I was traveling like 100% of the time almost. And I would be on like 3 phone calls at one time. And I would get a phone call from the school that I needed to pick up a kid. And I was out of town. And I needed to be, in a 4th place at the same time. And, the only thing I really wanted and needed to do was check out and do something for myself. But I didn't have the ability to do that, right? It was just like wasn't available for me. So I have a client like that right now. I have a mom, a very professional, busy mom like that right now, who is the version of me. And all she does is text me when she's on the road and has an hour at 8 o'clock on a Thursday, and I help her out then. And I'm not saying I can do that 24/7 for everyone, but I do make space in my schedule for my clients that are my established clients like that. And I work with them individually and tailored like that because I understand what it's like to be that person, to be that mom, to be that professional who is on the go 100% of the time, and you don't have time to, barely breathe, let alone go get your nails done and do, a Reiki session, when Reiki is really healthy. Reiki is taking care of yourself. Reiki is self-care. There's a reason why the professionals have, months and months and months and months of services booked out. It's because it is effective and it is a really, really good way of managing stress, managing anxiety, getting better sleep. So, just know that you have the opportunity here with me to come in, and I will help you in any way that I can. I understand, again, like what it's like to, really need something and not really be able to understand like a way to know how to make it work. So I always really do try to work with people in that capacity. Thank you. I see some folks joining. Just a quick message: if you're joining, #live. I would appreciate that if you're live. And then #replay if you're catching this after the live is ended. If you're catching me, just what we're talking about is I'm talking about my business. I'm talking more about like the service side of my business right now. I do Reiki as a Reiki master and teacher, and I'm kind of talking about too how it leans into the coaching side of my transformational side of my coaching. But really, I want to just help people understand what it is that I do on the Reiki side and how it really leans into that, and what sets me aside, I think, because as a trauma-informed Reiki provider, people kind of tend to come to me and are drawn to me for kind of some different services, and we kind of get into some deep and intense things sometimes, and sometimes it can happen really off the bat. And sometimes it kind of scares people, and I don't really mean to. So I do kind of talk with people about that initially whenever we do the intake process. I let them know, that when they're coming in, that this is kind of this can be a revealing process for them to go through, and it is going to sometimes be intense, but it is very meaningful. And like I said, I try to tailor everything to that individualized experience for each individual client. So yeah, I'm going to jump in, I think, now to some of the frequently asked questions that I get. If you have a question, just drop it in the comments section, and I would love to help with any of those. So I have a few that I put together, and then we'll work off of some of any of the others. So top question I think I get is, what is Reiki? So Reiki is really, it's a healing practice that originated in Japan, and it's an idea that that universal life force energy is moving through all living things. And when energy is low or when energy is blocked, it can cause us to be stressed or can cause us to be sick or not well. So Reiki allows us to focus on those areas and move through very focused parts of the body and deliberate hand motions. We use Reiki to move energy through the body and other things as well. It's not just the body. So how does Reiki work? That's another question that we get. Well, it's through kind of, we either lightly touch or touch sometimes, and I'll always ask my clients if it's okay for me to touch, but we either lightly touch or touch our clients, and we're moving energy through the body. And some people think, well, are you like zapping energy into me? No, I'm not like pushing energy into you. It's really you and you flowing energy through your body. And it's, when I say it's a self-healing process, you are also moving and transmuting that energy through your body. And you have also a responsibility in the healing process. So like, people then ask, what does Reiki feel like, right? Because, if I'm doing some of this work, should I, what is it gonna feel like? Well, sometimes it feels like nothing, and sometimes it feels like something. So it's individual process, like it's everybody's unique. For me as a practitioner, I can sometimes see that it's working, because sometimes people's eyelids will flutter. Sometimes people's throats will, like, how like you swallow and your throat will kind of go, I'm not saying it very well, but when you swallow, your throat goes gong, gong, gong. I know I'm not saying that well, but I will see people's throats kind of move a lot of times. I know that it's working because of that. I know that it's working when people's bellies start to rumble and grumble and roll. So if you're on the table and you feel your rumble and your tumble, don't worry about it. It's working. and I tell people all the time, come as you are, be as you are, totally relax. You're not going to say or do or be anything that's going to be weird. You're not going to say or do or be anything that is shocking. So yeah. But for you may feel all of that and experience all of that. I have, people that experience colors, they experience visions, they experience people talking to them. There's a lot of spiritual experiences too that can happen. One of my favorite experiences was whenever I was working in a group Reiki setting, and one of the men came up to me and he said that he experienced his father coming and talking to him, and it was so lovely. I loved it so much. So there's all kinds of different experiences. It just depends on yours in that moment, and they're never going to be the same. Okay, and I can't guarantee anything, and I can't guarantee what's going to happen on the table. Another big question / concern that a lot of people have about Reiki is it affiliated with religion? No. That's the most direct way that I can answer that question. No. I will say this though, it oftentimes brings you in closer alignment with your spiritual side, right? So if you are already affiliated with a religion, a lot of times it will bring you closer to that religion. You will not see me or hear me try to pull you into any religious jargon or away from any religion that you are in. It's just not part of the stuff we talk about. When we start talking about spiritual stuff in the coaching side, we talk about stuff that is spiritual in nature, and we talk about universal development. We do not talk about religion in the context of you being in a specific religion or a religious sect and you being part of that as a necessity. That's the best way I can say that in this slide. So no, Reiki is not affiliated with a religion, but I would also say that, as you align with Reiki, it does bring you closer to spirituality. And so if you are in a religion or you are religious already, it can bring you closer to your own religion. Can Reiki be used alongside traditional medicine? And so how is Reiki used with other medicines / Western medicine is how I would also put that. It's extremely effective, okay? When you do 2 or more modalities at one time, they are 80% more effective than when you do one modality at one time. 80% more effective when you do 2 or more modalities. So that's like if you do something like psychotherapy and Reiki, or if you are on a medication and Reiki, or if you go to physical therapy and Reiki. So you're never going to hear me say, don't do what you're doing to also improve your health and stop doing what you're doing, okay? Stop doing what you're doing and then do Reiki. You're never going to hear me say anything like that. Yes, Reiki can be done alongside traditional Western medicine. And, it is extremely effective as well, and it enhances, most often it will enhance or, bring, I guess enhance isn't really the right way to say that. It will, bring a lot of effectiveness into the, I think, experience that you're seeing. I can personally attest to, the experience that I have had. I had last year, I had a really bad neck injury, and I was told by 2 different specialists that I needed to have neck surgery. At the age of 42, they told me I had to have neck surgery, and I was like, that is not happening. So I started doing physical therapy, right? That was kind of like baseline course of therapy. And so I was doing physical therapy, and then I started doing Reiki also on myself. And within 4 weeks, I was almost immediately mobile. I mean, when I started, I couldn't move myself in any more than about this mobility. But then after about 4 weeks, I was completely mobile again and totally fine. So, my point there is I was doing 2 things at once and was extremely effective at getting back to, where I needed to be. And no surgery at this point, none. And I feel great. I'm moving and shaking and doing great. How many sessions do I need? I kind of talked about that earlier. It varies based on the person, and I tailor that based off of the person's needs as far as my recommendations. Generally speaking, when people come in to see me, they're usually looking at coming in every 2 weeks to 3, 4 weeks, but then within about maybe 3 to 4 sessions, we're able to push that out to at least every month to 6 weeks, and then get onto a more routine schedule after that. What type of session should I schedule? This is a really big question also that I get. So I have 3 different types of sessions that I offer for Reiki. The first session generally that I recommend that people schedule is the more deeper healing session. And the reason that I typically recommend that one is because it gives us more time and it lets us do the deeper dive. What you get in that session is you get a full Reiki session. You get a deep intuitive healing session. So we do a full reading, a full oracle reading, and a full intuitive reading. And then you also get the full care planning, and you get full meditative recommendations, and anything else that I think makes sense at that point comes into alignment. And of course, the guides are always doing what the guides are going to do. So, I can't really control them at all. It's taken me 40 years to figure that out, but, so they drop in and just tell me whatever I'm supposed to provide is what I provide in those deep healing sessions, but that's the baseline of what comes with those. So typically I recommend those kind of for the first one. And sometimes, people like to just kind of rebook those a little more often just because they like to do the deeper intuitive readings. So then after that, people generally come in just for the full Reiki session on a routine basis. And those typically, the first sessions usually last anywhere between like an hour and a half and 2 hours. They're longer sessions. And that's if you book the deep dive. That's the deeper dive session. The typical like full Reiki session, where we do just, like a basic Reiki session, and you come in and, we talk about kind of why you came in and, what's bringing you in that day. Those typically last about an hour or so, between an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. And, those I think are great for, our just kind of general flow, what we have kind of day to day going on, and just kind of just keeping us baselined for what we have every day going on. I also have kind of a mini reset option. It's a half-hour session. So if you're, kind of like me in life, and like I was whenever I was in the corporate world, on the go, 4 kids at home, and nothing but trouble on the books. I have the mini session also. So if you know that you are already working with me, or you've already been established and it's something that that works well for you, we can do a mini session also and keep you on your way. So I hope that this has been helpful, and I know it's been really long. But if you have any questions, or if there's anything that comes up, just drop it in the comments or DM me. You can schedule a session by clicking on the link in the description. Again, if you're catching this live, #live, and if you're catching the replay, #replay. I got into Reiki because, I was drawn to it, and really it was drawn to me. It is the thing that speaks to me and allows me to communicate most authentically with people, and it opens up the path of communication for me with people. So yeah, if you are so drawn to work with me on anything that we've kind of talked about, just send me a message. I'd love to work with you. We'll talk about it and see if it'll be a good fit. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I will talk with you guys soon. Love you. Bye.